you guys will get into so many. This is going to just go so many directions, right?
Right.
Because and none of it is good for the Biden family.
Please disperse. Nothing to see here.
None of it's good for the left.
No.
They really backed themselves into a corner in so many ways with this. But let's just talk about integrity, because I feel like the topic of integrity is a big deal right now, because all this is really done is just shown, again, it's planted a big old spotlight on the two-tier justice system that is, selective in nature. We're going to go after political opponents. For years, everybody was saying no one, all on the left, their big tagline was no one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law, not even the son of the President of the United States.
Yes.
And so that was, there's news clip after news clip saying that. But here we are now where we find that, if you have a certain last name, maybe it's Biden, then suddenly you are above the law. But I'll just say this, so many of the pundits, the analysts and different ones are just talking about the fact that, this was an all out lie. Biden said that he would never pardon his son.
I've watched him say it.
Many times. There's many clips out there.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
And for us as Christians, what this really does is highlight that a lack of integrity will never go well for you. And I think this is an important thing for young millennial believers, the Gen Z coming up, is to understand that just because the culture is highlighting this lack of integrity, they show that it's okay to lie if you have positions of power. It's okay to have immorality if you have positions of power. And I know these things bleed over into the church. We see these things where it seems that leaders they have these hidden skeletons and lack of integrity and issues happening. And first of all, I just want to say about the church, and I'll say this to the audience, God always has 7,000 that haven't bowed the knee to Baal. God always has those that are filled with integrity. Don't ever think that the whole world is like what we're seeing happening with the left right now. That's a fact of where a lack of integrity will get you. But God always has his righteous remnant seed, preachers of integrity, leaders with integrity. And I believe people in the political that have integrity. And so that's what we cannot lose sight of right now, is that God has a holy seed, a holy remnant who are, and this whole thing with the pardon is just highlighting that God is going to elevate those that have maintained their righteous standard.
Well, yeah, and I think, too, the pardon really needs to come over those January 6ers, too. Like the whole thing that happened, where they were put in, some of them are still in jail or prison, and all they did was be in the place of Washington, D.C. They didn't even do anything. They were just in the premises, and people were I even heard that there were people being put on the terrorist watch list just because they had a business trip or flew into Washington, D.C. that day. Yeah. That is ridiculous. That is toxic.
And there's no doubt that there's some people there that maybe took it to an unhealthy level and did things they shouldn't. But the key is, and I guess what I feel like this is showing all of us right now
true colors
is that, well, yes, absolutely that, but it's showing us that if you maintain a standard, God always, you think about how many times Pastor Hank prophesied that God would vindicate the righteous. I mean, we have so many prophetic words, but David said something key. King David said that my integrity I was preserved. And I feel like integrity preserves the righteous. Yes, we're seeing fallout in the church, but the Bible says judgment must begin at the house of God. We're seeing things happen in the political, but God is elevating those that have maintained their testimony, that have chosen integrity in secret places. And I feel like that's what this is about. So there's good coming from it. And that's what I feel so strongly in my spirit about, that we're going to see righteousness come to the forefront.
Exactly. And to your point, Pastor Brenda, this is about, especially with Gen Z and the millennials, you hear a lot about this. Matt, we hear this all the time. My truth. This is my truth. Live your truth. Live your own reality.
Just doing me, man. But, like all that.
But we're seeing the ill effects of this mindset, because now it's being weaponized against you. Because now if you look at our justice system, what are they saying? Well, this is my truth. He's pardoned under the Fifth Amendment. I'm sorry, what? We have hard evidence. There is no my truth. This is the fact of the matter. This is, and so for millennials and Gen Z, this, like you said, there's going to be good that comes out of this, because it's going to be a wake up call saying, look, we can't allow this society where it's okay to have these subjective standards or morals, because just because whatever may be beneficial to you does not mean that's beneficial for the greater good or the rest of society. Right. So we have to get back to we have to get back to the notion, and not just the notion, but just the foundational truth that there is absolute truth.
Well,
there is absolutism in morals.
Yeah, I can give you Bible on that. So you are absolutely right, because Paul said it this way. He said, all things for me might be lawful, but it doesn't mean that they're expedient, meaning that I can legally do things under the grace of Christ that are under grace, but it doesn't mean that they're good for me. It doesn't mean they're helpful. It doesn't mean they help my fellow man. It doesn't mean that they're beneficial. I maybe could do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean I should do it. And of course, he goes on in Galatians 5 to talk about don't use your freedom or your liberty for an occasion to gratify your flesh. And I think this is what we're seeing right now is God is holding the earth to a standard so that the gospel can be preached. Yeah. He's holding it to righteousness. And this is, to your point, so important for the young generation, because they're raised in a culture where there aren't absolute truths. It's do whatever you want to do. Yep. And we've just seen that slow decline over the course of several generations. So I just see this as God pushing the earth to revival. He is